Welcome everybody in this digital space, and welcome to the lecture series of the Council on African Studies at Yale University. We are based in New Haven. It is 12 p.m. right now. And today we are going to welcome Professor Boukary Sawadogo, whom I'm going to introduce in a few seconds. And I'm just going to briefly introduce myself. I am Cécile Feza-Bouchidi. I am a postdoctoral fellow here at the Center for African Studies. I am a dancer as well, and I write on dance in colonial Kenya. So today with Professor Sawadogo, we're going to chat, right? And I have prepared a series of questions that mainly revolve around his latest book that is titled West African Screen Media, Comedy, TV Series and Transnationalization, published by the Michigan State University Press in 2019. And Boukary will talk for about 30 minutes, and I will also inject some questions here and then. We'll be able to watch some images as well. And during that time, of course, feel free to write down any questions that you might have for him. And after that, we'll move on to the Q&A. So let me introduce Professor Sawadogo. So Dr. Boukary Sawadogo is Assistant Professor of Cinema Studies in the Department of Media and Communication Arts and the Black Study program at the City College of New York, City University of New York. He is the author of African Film Studies, an introduction that was published by Routledge in 2018, and his latest book, West African Screen Media, Comedy, TV Series and Transnationalization, published by Michigan State University Press in 2019. So welcome, Boukary. Welcome to Yale, and Boukary is based in New York City. So to start, I was wondering if you could tell us about the current state of scholarship on African cinema, and more importantly, how does your work fit within such scholarship?
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I want to extend also my thanks to the Council on African Studies, Yale, and for giving me this opportunity and this platform to address you all online, given COVID, to talk about African cinema and African screen media in general. To answer your question, Cécile, what are the current status of African the scholarship on African cinema, and how does my work fits within that? I will say that the scholarship of African cinema will be in many shifts from gradually from anti-colonial rhetoric and nation building frameworks, which are the frameworks in which African cinema has been contained for several years now. So we've been a gradual shift from those theoretical frameworks to new, I would say, relatively recent ways of critically engaging productions from Africa. One of which is first Nollywood studies, which is based on, I would say initially, Nollywood is the video-based Yoruba language, English language productions, but gradually it moved into different iterations of itself, to the point that, sometimes people talk about the new Nollywood. And along with Nollywood, we have similar iteration of the video-based production, but now not video, but more popular commercial cinema that is also found in Ghana, Gollywood, the northern part of Nigeria, Kannywood, or even a little bit in East Africa, talk about Bongo Wood. So we have this, center of intervention, critical intervention on African cinema, which is Nollywood and the similar industries. The second, I would say, center of gravity in terms of critical intervention on African cinema today is the emerging, I would say the emergence of festival studies. And the book by Lindiwe Davi really kind of, brought some, I would say, some visibility to that field. And for a side note, I just, I have an article coming out that's really, brings FESPACO, because FESPACO celebrated its 50th anniversary 2019, and then so FESPACO and the critical discourse of on African cinema. So from Nollywood studies, we have festival studies, but also we have also another, more emerging field or subfield within African cinema, which is kind of based on transnational cinema, whether it is approach from migration, diaspora, or from the global circulation of images. This is also an area where we are having a lot of academic and scholarly interest. And last, because there are so many other trends, and last is the different disruptions and innovation in the production, dissemination, and reception of locally produced screen media. And that's where my work really fits in, because I've decided to focus on comedy and also on TV serials, which is a really booming trend in Africa.
Thank you, Boukary. And so, speaking about TV serials, how would you contextualize the rise of these African TV serials? What are the main shifts, sort of development around these genres?
Okay, we have, to give you the context, or kind of give you historical context and where the shift really happened. We have to go back to the mid-1990s, because, prior to the mid-90s, I will say the prime time television programming in Africa were mostly dominated by foreign serialized productions. Be it children animation series that, when I was growing up, we watched at 6 p.m., that was 6 p.m., slot, or be it the more recent telenovelas from Latin America, which usually air, on national TV before the nighttime news, before 8 or slightly after 8, or even the detective series, and like Derrick, Colombo, or Maigret, or Navarro. That's sometimes function as the night feature length, on television screens in Africa. So to say that up to the mid 1990s was predominantly for foreign serialized productions. And then a shift happened. And that shift is really, should be attributed to, I would say, to two factors. One is the technological development. So we have video and HD technology, which in one way enable the democratization of the access to a film medium. Because we have to understand that prior to that, not everybody can make a film, not everybody can be a media audiovisual producer. Either you went to film school, and if that's the case, it's mostly in Europe, and that's a lot of money, not everybody can afford that, or you have to work with or in the national television. But when the video and the HD technology came around, it opened the field to everybody. So everybody, with a prosumer camera and some knowledge about editing, can go on and shoot their own stories. So we have the technological development. And second, it is the change in the structure and opportunities of funding. Because prior to the late 1990s, excuse me, most of the funding was state and institutional, which is basically the state, funding productions, TV productions, or film production, or it is the multilateral organization, be it the French Ministry of Cooperation or the European Union. So in that sense, that's also very difficult to get those funding if you are nobody. But in the at the end of the 1990s, we have local corporate partnership that allowed funding from the grassroots level. And I will take a specific example for the case of Burkina Faso, where you have the national lottery company that's fund the production. You have the Social Security Administration that has a partnership with funding a TV series, and later we had mining and mineral water companies to show you the combination of technology revolution and also the availability of local funding really allowed many more storytellers to go into the long form drama, which are serials. And the question that some of the audience members may ask themselves, or even ask us, is, but who made a movie, TV series at that time? It's very early on. They were made by both established filmmakers and also emerging filmmakers. And here also I will take the case of Burkina Faso. Why? Because I'm from Burkina Faso, and also I've done a lot of field trips there. So established filmmakers, we have Idrissa Ouedraogo, who made Kadi Jolie in 1999. And 1998, we have Dani Kouyaté, who made À nous la vie. So established and emerging filmmakers, but also the TV serials were later made by actresses and actors who played in the first serials. And that's the case of Akissi Delta in Côte d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast, who made My Family. And or even very close to Burkina Faso, you have Aminata Diallo-Glaise, who made Through Women, One Village.
Thank you, Boukary. Thank you. I remember last February watching the Netflix series Queen Sono. The series created by the South African director Kagiso Lediga, and so I've been wondering what you have to say about the kind of African serials that are aired on TV today. I mean, both in Africa and here in the US as well.
Okay, so since you mentioned some of the series. Netflix African series, I will share a screen, share some of the photographs from those series, and I will say words about them. So we have Blood and Water, which is a Netflix original series that was produced a few months ago. And this series was actually the second for this year, because prior to this series, Netflix produced Queen Sono, which really kind of kickstarted its venture into producing series exclusively in Africa, and for an African audience, but beyond African audience. So Queen Sono came out earlier in February, and Blood and Water came out a few months later. Now, how to understand this production, how to understand this production in the larger context. In the larger context is simply, for the last few years, I would say for the last 2 years, there is an increasingly corporate intervention in the media industry in Africa. And that's the case for Netflix, because prior to producing its original African series, he had already partnered with Iroko in Nigeria and other players to stream African content. So to say that, okay, the African media market is really very attractive. And to give you one, a very recent example, which is just happened in August, early August, NBC Universal DreamWorks signed a partnership with Star Times to launch a channel in Sub-Saharan Africa to air children content. Yeah, so to say that this is really ongoing, it's really the big players of the global media going to Africa right now, because they have, two things has been holding them up over the last 5 years. One being, what is the best economic model for them going into the African market? Is it subscription, or is it more advertisement embedded in content? And also they were also a little bit worried about the infrastructure, because we talk about streaming here. You need to have a reliable internet connection. You need to have a reliable grid, national grid. But looks like they're kind of passing those initial fears and moving into I would say production, because they used to be distributors, but now they're not only producers but also distributors. So that's how to contextualize the recent production and distribution of Netflix original African series. But in addition to the corporate intervention into African media market, there are also the local market, the local players that also produce their own content. And I will, once again share my screen here. And that's the case of my family. And we see here the major actors who, and this, series started in the early 2000s, and he has been going on for more than 10 years now. So it's a very, very popular series, more, that goes beyond, West Africa. So if there is any Francophone, series, African Francophone series that is well known, it will be this series. So, and so I'm going, just to show you the pictures, and then I could come back and make general comments about them. And we have Wara Love, which is a series from Burkina Faso, which is as the title is self-explanatory. It's about really the intricacies of love, which is kind of universal theme for many series. And we have Bobo Diouf, also from Burkina Faso. I will say this one also maybe the second best well-known African Francophone series, beside My Family. And not the last, last one on here is La Maîtresse d'un homme marié, The Mistress of a Married Man, from Senegal, which was produced and released last year. And this one really, I should say, created controversy, because it's about a mistress of a married man, and in a predominantly Muslim society. So people were viewer were not taking kindly the fact that okay, such I would say such a relationship was brought to the screen, because it's focused on polygamy, rape, depression. But all those themes in themselves are not a problem. It's simply that okay, here we're talking about a kind of illegitimate relationship within the context of the marriage. But these productions are really broadcasted through local television. Used to be national television used to kind of be the key players in the distribution and exhibition of African TV serials. But more and more we have Pan-African, when I say Pan-African, basically, transnational television companies in Africa, like Africa Magic from Mnet, the South African giant Mnet. So we have Africa Magic. We have Africa Cable, which is West African, base. We have TV5 Monde, that's most French speakers know about. And also we have Canal Plus, which is a local subsidiary A+. So we have here, so, in addition to the big, players globally, we have also local players, and the production are usually either production arrangement between national televisions or between those transnational media with directors, or simply directors who raise money from local corporate sponsorship to make content.
Good, excellent. Thank you so much, Boukary. It's fascinating. I have a series of questions with regards to the theory and concept of these TV serials, and I was wondering if you could tell us about the aesthetic construction of these TV serials.
Yeah, in terms of aesthetics, I will first address, since we're talking here about media, I'm going to talk about a little bit, to touch on the technical side, which is the case of cinematography. Because in terms of the cinematography, which is the camera work, very early on, the first serials were really, in terms of cinematography, were left to be desired. Because the camera work were not really up to the professional standards, but gradually it evolved. But what is very interesting here is that the viewers, local viewers, didn't care about the technical aspect. So it wasn't about how a nice camera worked was put into this. About really, these are our stories, these are our images, and this was what was a key factor of infatuation for the audience member. So in terms of cinematography, it was really rudimentary tools, and gradually evolved. Why? Because at the beginning was really field camera, prosumer camera. That's the first filmmakers were using. But very interestingly, the second point in terms of aesthetic construction is what is at the very basic, what is the underlying principle of a serial, which is the continuity in the storytelling. That's why we have episodes. So which is, we have episodic progression. If you, could watch many, and I'm not generalizing, but many of the West African, TV serial, you will see that, continuity is redefined differently in a way that you don't, each episode sometimes is treated as a whole story, to the point that if you miss one episode, you don't have trouble catching up, or even filling the gap when you go to the second or even 2 episodes down the road. And that, in terms of aesthetic construction, in terms of the narrative and operative structure of a story, it brings an innovation which on one hand enable the viewer some type of agency, but also from the perspective of the creators and the distributors, is that okay, you build a fan base, you build loyalty, because they know that okay, if I miss this episode, I know that okay, if even I come in, 5 episodes later, I will grasp everything, which is kind of in contrast with the telenovelas. That's where it's coming from Latin America and South America, where it's basically if you miss 2 or 3 episodes, you need someone to fill you in. Otherwise, you lost.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also the third element in terms of aesthetic construction is how we can establish a parallel between serialization and the oral storytelling in a way that the episode has treated as just short stories. In the way that okay, the oral storytelling, oral storytelling function. Basically, you have each story that is self-contained, and as I said earlier, the episode is also treated as a self-contained short story. So we see some of the influence of the oral storytelling in the TV serials, and we can take elements like folk tales, myths, songs, and dance that are worked into many of those series. So those are the 3 points that I can make about the aesthetic construction of TV serials.
Thank you, Boukary. And so what I find very interesting in your book is that you really conceptualize comedy and entertainment. You really offer new food to think about, to think theoretically about comedy and entertainment in the context of African studies. So my question to you is, why do you find it important to conceptualize comedy and entertainment, in the context of film study, but also in the broader context of African studies?
So in the broader context of African studies, I think it's important to conceptualize comedy and entertainment, or even just say entertainment and comedy just falls under that category. Well, first I can relate the conceptualization of entertainment to Achille Mbembe's post-colony, which is how we are the post-independence, but still we are in a state of continued violence, from colonialism. So as if you have a prolongation. In that sense, you have many ways in terms of citizens of engaging that violence on a daily basis. So, and one mechanism of coping with that violence is basically to make fun of ourselves through comedy, or to make fun of the oppressors who are the rulers of today. And in that sense, entertainment through comedy is really one mechanism of coping with that continued state of violence. And second, it's important also to really conceptualize entertainment within the field of African cinema itself, because for a long time the theoretical concept has been centered around mostly nation building and a critique of colonialism, a critique of neo-colonialism, to the point that comedy, when comedy was mentioned or even addressed in that context, is basically how it's in terms of in functional terms, how comedy is in service of didacticism, which is basically how comedy functions as a tool to help educate people. But comedy is not it dressed as an independent, a totally independent discursive element. And that's, is a critical neglect of comedy that I I wanted to address, because that part is very important. And also, if we with that, against the backdrop of the changing demographics of the continent, we cannot simply treat media and the consumption pattern of media as static. Earlier, I was talking about how the global players are coming to Africa and the global circulation of images. You lump this together with more than half of the continent population are under 20. And media consumption is completely different. It's not only, I'm watching this to be really looking for an educational dimension. Whether we like it or not, young people now just want to watch movies or or content on their cell phones or the tablet, just to have fun, just for a pure fact of entertainment, which kind of bring us to the function of cinema as at the inception of cinema itself, where we had the two distinction between Méliès and the Lumiere brothers. But that's really to go far. But really to say there is a changing demographic and also changing patterns in the use of media and also media consumption in Africa. And in terms of concepts, we should come with new tools to better render and grasp the changing undergoing.
Thank you, Boukary. I was wondering if you had identified some trends in the production and reception of screen images in Francophone West African TV.
Some of the trends, I think I kind of addressed them earlier. It's on one hand, we have the more increased corporate intervention in the media, screen media production, distribution. And also we have locally governments for the last, I would say last 5 years, government that have put in place public policies to develop local film and media industry. I will take the case of Senegal with the fund called FOPICA. We take Burkina Faso with the film fund called FCP. We have also similar with Ghana a few years ago that is passed a law to have a film fund with a target, with a goal of establishing a film industry. So we have, as we have one trend of corporate, private, moving into the industry. We'll also have governments and states that are developing public initiative to boost this the sector by training filmmakers, program that train filmmakers, program that fund or partially fund production, and also programs that are meant to rehabilitate cinemas that are closed or simply have been converted to churches or warehouses. So those are changes that are really happening.
Thank you. And I have one last question. What are your book's perspectives on film genre studies?
So what I've sought to bring to the table, so to speak, in terms of film genre studies, is simply, I would say, in line with the French philosopher Jacques Derrida. His idea of genre. Simply, genre is not a closed taxonomy of classifications. It's not a rigid structure. Genre is open and genre is very fluid. So I'm showing how the genre renewal, in this case in my work is TV series and also comedy, how genre renewal is at the intersection or is the result of the interplay between the local and the global. And the local, I've delved into how the Koteba theatrical practices and joking kinship has been, some of the local cultural resources used by storytellers to reinvent the comedy genre. And by reinventing it, or if you want, by appropriating it, but also indirectly adding and changing the genre itself at the global level. So it's, and also to speak about the changing dynamics of production and distribution in Africa, but also in the diaspora, how the global circulation of images have allowed a certain presence and voice for the continent.
Thank you. So, sorry.
Yeah, I wanted, because, talking about, the diaspora, I think that I might well maybe screen very shortly the web series, An African City, which kind of make the link between the diaspora and Africa. Mm-hmm. So, and that's added, another element to the conversation to say that, okay, African TV serials or web series are not only produced by those on the continent, but also in the diaspora. On that note, let me share a few minutes with you with the series An African City, set in Accra, Ghana. Okay, I need to refresh it.
7 out of 10 deaths in the US are caused by chronic illnesses that are preventable, like heart disease, cancer.
Welcome home. The African continent finally has you back, and just in time for the holidays.
How was your flight?
It was good. Flight was good. And how does it feel to be back?
It is exciting and it is scary at the same time. It's scary because I don't know how I'm going to survive without Starbucks coffee for the rest of my life, but I'm all smiles for now.
Well, instead of Starbucks coffee, on every corner you'll find plenty of fried plantain. So be just fine.
That's exciting. Yeah, when I left for New York, my family and I was just 7. So to be back, it's really wonderful.
Give it a month. A month? Give it a day.
Guys, my family left Nigeria for the States when I was just 5. So to be back to the continent, I don't know, there's something about it. It's just nice.
I've had lights off for 3 days, and the generator costs are ridiculous. True.
What? What?
Light off, light on.
Okay, right. Okay.
Boss, can I get a Coke with ice? No lemon, boss. I beg you. No lemon. Thank you. My area has been going through water rationing.
Water rationing?
Yeah. The water company turns off the water every other day. Same in Sierra Leone. Same. Kenya too. Oh, guys, come on. It's not that bad. Okay, fine. Maybe it sucks a little bit. Like the help. I could swear the house girl is stealing my bras.
Really?
I opted for no house help. It all just felt too much like colonialism. But all of these things aside, there are still really wonderful things about returning home.
Exactly. You'll love it.
Yeah, I love it too, but just don't romanticize it.
The weather is perfect all the time. The restaurants, the beaches, the fresh mangoes, the coconut water that you don't have to drink out of a cardboard box, but out of an actual coconut.
Except in Ngozi. Please, can you stop buying those cheap sunglasses from the side of the road?
5 Ghana Cedi Christian Dior sunglasses that you can buy while sitting in traffic. In fact, you never have to leave your car. I mean, batteries, lamps, grapes, books by Chinua Achebe, placemats, toilet paper.
Yeah, street hawkers. Oh. Which reminds me, Nanea, did you bring the thing I asked you to buy from the States for me?
Yeah, I was gonna give it to you after.
Just give it to me now.
All right.
Seriously, Zainab, you can buy that here. Why do you always get returnees to bring you back Pepto-Bismol, of all things?
Ever since this one got back, her stomach has never been the same.
I don't buy medication here. I don't trust it. Trust me, it's all fake crap from China.
And India.
Fake medication.
Except Danex Pharmaceuticals, of course.
Well, you know, the business opportunities. Now, the business opportunities are reason enough to move home.
High risk, but high return.
I actually make $30,000 per sale on each container of shea butter I ship to Minnesota. The exchange rates here, though, killing me.
$30,000?
Yeah.
That's my entire yearly salary at USAID.
Kwame?
Okay, so it's okay. This is kind of preview, yeah. So.
Thank you, Boukary. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I think we can open the floor to questions now. I'm opening the Q&A, and I have a question from Mariam, and who thank you for this nice talk. And Mariam has a question for Dr. Boukary. How to make West African cinema a big industry?
Excellent question, because I would say first you have to appropriate or be a stakeholder in the production, the distribution, which as of now is not always the case, because even production funding sometimes are scarce, hard to come by. And so which means that, okay, you have to find a way for a sustainable stream of funding to come in, or maybe, look, to the neighbors, look to Nigeria to see, maybe study the model, how the model works. It works for them. It doesn't mean that you can replicate it, but try to take the best aspect of it and build your own one, because that has been the dream for, I want to say, every country to have a film industry. But in terms of players, sometimes it's lacking, because so far I think that the attention has been on it used to be funding. Now I think the shift has been to training. So we have many film schools. But let's focus on production. How we have more locally trained I would say filmmakers than we do producers. Why it's the job of a producer to go get the funding, everything, and also how to harness the potential of the local market and make it sustainable, but while also reaching out to the diaspora, which can be an extension or even a market in itself. I know, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal have, those government have put in place a public initiative to develop the film industry over the last 5 years, but still more work needs to be done. I would say, in practical sense, you need to, have a film, I would say, cinemas, reopen cinemas or rehabilitate cinema in concrete terms. And also, we cannot ignore streaming, even though you have infrastructure challenges. If it's not streaming, maybe develop ways to have downloads, which, you need to use less data. So, I'm saying, have a combination of two approach here in terms of the distribution. You have a theatrical release, you have a streaming, platforms, And also one last thing is how to merchandise. The merchandising in African cinema is very, very important, but yet lacking completely. Because if you take the franchise in the US or a big studio, yeah, film grossing a lot of money, but also most significantly, it's the merchandising that grossing a lot. We, on the continent, we have, big stores, compared to movie stores, but the images doesn't always translate into financial gains, except, what they paid for acting. So we have merchandising that should be a component of it too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Boukary. Any other questions from the participants? I have another question. I was wondering if you had identified some differences between Francophone and Anglophone TV serials, differences, and what are the commonalities between what is broadcast, in Ghana, for instance, and what can be broadcast in Burkina Faso.
I think in terms of differences, it's true that you have the language, but that's very, I don't want to say superficial, almost insignificant, because we can have dubbing and everything. So, what I would say the similarities for me is how sometimes I'm amazed how local stories get such a traction, such an interest from the viewers, from the audience. So that that tells you that okay, the interest is there, the audience is there. It's simply in terms of distribution. How do you get quality production to the audience? That sometimes is the challenge. So, but across the different colonial area language zone, it's really how local production are really moving up. And interesting here is you have production that are completely in one of the many national languages, but it's only dubbed in French or even in English. I was giving the example earlier of La Maîtresse d'un homme marié, the mistress of a married man in Senegal, that came out last year. It's all in Wolof. And you only have the subtitles in French. You go the same thing in Ghana or in Nigeria. You have series that are in the local languages, or at least most of it in the local languages. So which tells you in terms of the audience. The audience is the audience is local and the diaspora. Yeah, it's true that we add dubbing or subtitles to make it more accessible to people outside those cultural and linguistic zones.
Thank you, Boukary. Thank you. Any questions from the floor? I'm going to bring one last question. I think we'll bring the session to a close. Is there any star system, a celebrity system? Are people drawn into some series because of a certain actor or because of a particular actress? I know that at the beginning of the Nollywood series, there were some really famous Nollywood actors and actresses, and I was wondering if these African TV serials have given rise to celebrities.
Yeah. I will take the case of Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, and the West African part. Very, very, because when you talk about star system, it's true that when we say star system, we automatically think of Hollywood, but to a lesser degree here, So we have the case of when we say Go. If you are, from, French-speaking West Africa, automatically you say, oh, I know who he is. He's a household name. You say Go Michel is a household name. Akisi Delta, who is, the producer and actress also of My Famille, is household name. If you take Burkina Faso, Hippolyte Wangawa, that everybody knows by Babonga. That's one of his screen name that tells to the point of, yeah, that's Babonga. Or you look at take the example of Commissariat de Tampi police station. When you say OU, everybody's like, oh, this is the drunkard policeman who is in love with a woman but doesn't have the courage to, or the guts to go up to her and say, you know what, actually, I love you. So, and so those are, stars, and I can keep the list going on and on, that now, are part of the landscape, to the point that, okay, if you want to make a well received and financially viable TV serials, you have to get one of those stars. And the stardom doesn't limit itself to the screen, but also in society, because you see the social function that they perform at events where they're invited at openings, ceremonies, or even to be the sponsor of this or that ceremony, tells you that there is that stardom. But it's true that, okay, under the skies in Africa, be a film star doesn't always translate into a well-funded lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Boukary, for for this very illuminating take on African TV serials. To remind the attendees, Boukary has just published in 2019 his book West African Screen Media, Comedy, TV Series, and Transnationalization. And it's available online through the Yale University Library as well. So thank you so much for being with us today, Boukary. It was just a great seminar. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and it's my pleasure, and I really appreciate it.